Hi everyone. Today we're going to look at some of the very basic features of NodeScript, how to add nodes to a canvas, how to connect them, manipulate the data, and then have a graph that you can publish. So the first thing we want to look at in the bottom right corner here of the canvas is a question mark. If you click this at any time, you'll see a list of all of the keyboard shortcuts as well as a legend for all of the color types we use and access to documentation and support. Let's start in the top left corner here. Here is the name of our graph. We can change it at any time by clicking it. It's important to remember these naming conventions. I'll explain more as we go on. So let's start by adding an input to our graph. So we click on input here and we add our first one. For the purpose of our demonstration, we'll call it name and we'll make it a string type. You can see from the drop down here, you can pick any data type you want for your input. Ours is going to be a string. And we're simply going to call it world for our graph hello world today. So once it's been added here, we can right click or press space anywhere on the canvas and we will be able to add any node that's available. The list will be displayed here and you can search down it, but we want to add the input we just made and you can see it here listed under inputs with the name. So we click it and we can see the value we added, world, is now displayed in the top right above the node. This will be common across all nodes in NodeScript. The value of the node will be displayed in the top right above it. So we have our input. Okay, what we want to do with it is let's make a string and then we'll join the string. So if we search string, we can see all of the strings listed. Again, with that naming convention I showed you earlier, it's separated with a slash. We were looking for strings, so we can either write the whole thing out or we can just search join, it'll show up, we can select it. If we want to move it, we just simply click and drag. And what we want to do, if we want to connect it, we can just click on the connector and drag it over and it will display the value of the input. So it'll say world in the top right again. If we don't want to do that, we can just break the connection and let go and it will be separated again. What we want to do is add another value, so we can click on the plus or we could remove that if it was a mistake with the X. We do want to add one for our demo, so we'll add it and we'll type hello and you can see that hello is now displayed in the top right. We're going to add an extra one so we can connect it together. If we now pull the input and connect it, you'll see displayed above it we have hello world. Great. So now we've connected our input to this string joiner and it's joined the two strings together. We can change the order with these arrows on the right hand side and you'll see now world hello. We can change it back but we don't want it to be all squished up like this. We want to separate it, so we'll just move it up here and then we can use the separator to separate our two values. We'll simply add a space in the field here and it will separate hello and world. Well, that's great, but what if we want to do something a bit more complicated? If we have, let's say we add here another item and we have an exclamation mark, they're all separated now because the separator separates each value. So in that case, we could just change the specific property we want. We can put a space after hello and then it will separate it this way. So there's a few ways you can manipulate the specific inputs for every node. This is true across every node type. This is just an example for right now. Also, if we do change the input value at any time, in this case, let's change it to Peter. We'll say hello Peter instead of hello world. The input itself will be acting as a variable data that can be taken by this node. Now we have hello world. What if we want to publish that? We click on publish in the top right, but it will tell us there is no output node on this graph, so there's nothing to output. It's a very simple thing to fix. We just right click on our graph again and we add output this time. You'll see the output node already has a value. You could directly enter something into this field. It will just label hello, but we don't want to do that. So we'll take our connector again and connect them and we'll see we're getting the output from our graph displayed here in the output node, which is great. And now we can publish it as a module. We could also, at this stage, expose it as an endpoint, or we can export it as a public module. We'll just do it for ourselves, and you'll see in the bottom corner it's now been published. And I will explain very briefly exactly what this has done after I show you a few more very basic features. One I want to showcase here is the frame. So we right click again, we add a frame. A frame is just an organizational tool you can use, and any nodes inside it will be moved as a group. You can see here all these nodes are moving around together, so this is just for organization. You can also, much like in standard coding IDEs, add a comment. They're sticky notes in NodeScript, a bit more tactile. You can move them around. You can also color code them if you wanted to, and you can edit them by clicking on the A there. That just means to edit. There's an action menu too if you want to delete or edit any of your nodes. Same with the frame. You can also color code them for organizational purposes, or you can edit their name by clicking on this A. So that's a look at some of the very basic features of adding nodes to a graph, as well as connecting them and manipulating the data within a specific node. Just here you can see hello world, our result is overlapping output node. If we'd like to hide that, there is an eye in the top right corner, and by toggling it on, you will display the output of every node, and off will only show the node you have selected. So you can turn these on or off as you need. It might get a bit messy when you have a very complicated graph with much larger value results. Let's move over to an empty graph and take a very quick look at how we can call that module in and how that works just before we end this video. So if we search again and we search for the name of the graph we just published, we have basics hello world, and that was the name we made. And if we bring that in, we'll see here we have a single node with that functionality. The value at the minute is hello with an exclamation mark, and we have our name, which was our input in the previous graph and now is a single field, so we can fill it in. We have hello world again. If we right click and go to the module, we'll see the graph that we made earlier. Just a very quick look at some more advanced things to come with NodeScript, but that's how you publish a module and how you call it into a later graph. So with that, that's the end of the very basics of NodeScript, and let's take a look at some more advanced features.